By the way, fastest way to get rid of one of that 5%? Ignore them. Ignore them. Biggest sin you can make. This law of reciprocity is deep in those who give. Generously give my endorsement and my encouragement to visit you. Big stuff. And if you don't say thanks, I want to tell you something. You just turned that switch off on one of your 5%. Never to hear from them again. Maybe even an enemy. Just because you didn't say thank you. Now, here's the study on it. A handwritten note on an expensive thank you card with a real commemorative stamp on the outside and maybe a lipstick kiss on the back or whatever is a 10 on a 10 scale in the appreciation factor according to all those business owners. A 10 on a 10 scale, handwritten personal thank you note for the referral. By the way, what really startled me though was that an email with the same message scored a 9.5. I'll give up a half a point, will you? My handwriting would probably alienate. So it's amazing. You get to ask yourself on each of these, you know, are we abandoning orphans? Are we just expecting that because we got them, that they are automatically going to build loyalty and understanding and depth of appreciation and all of that? It's insane. And now we have the tools to do this. When this study first started in 1991, you got to figure the only choice was direct mail. So I was asking them, I mean, we got down to the drill. I had them for 3.5 hours. So I'd ask them, I said, you know, somebody tell me, you hired a recent professional service provider. How did that come about? How did you get to them? How did they get to you? And I would listen. And we recorded all of this. And they would tell us, most often, the way we all do. You know, they gained access. But they had no process. They were depending on the sales force to create the introduction and the education and the warm-up before you ask for the fair maiden's hand in marriage. Look at this. Maybe as much as 60% of your future is right there. Half at least. Half at least, just to the revenue alone. And then finally, how many of you have whales as clients? You know, I mean, I have Nokia, worldwide phone company. That's a different animal. There's a VP who reviews the contract every 3 years. But more importantly, there are those people who utilize the system in the field. It's not easy to get back into a global corporate vice president just to chat, build a relationship. It's almost impossible. However, the study showed that the ones who often won reviews without reviews were the ones who stayed in touch, the rep who stayed in touch. Most reps aren't good writers. They're great speakers often, very persuasive, but they're really not good writers. So it isn't likely I'm going to chat you up or drop you a note and tell you I was thinking about you or saw a golf match the other day and reminded our conversation. You know, it's nice stuff, but it doesn't build a relationship. And so what they found out was that most VPs who sign the whale, VPs who signs a contract, that's their job. They're contracting officers. The minute that deal is done, it's off that desk and a new deal comes in. You don't want to talk to you. 3 years we'll review it. However, you did learn during that process of acquiring the client, you found out what their goals were, what their reasons were driving this initiative, what their metrics are now, and what they hope for in the future. You get printouts, they get printouts. How about sending them a quarterly report? Easy to configure in today's world. This is where you were, this is what's happened. This is what you set target for, this is what happened. Measurement, every quarter. Just wanted you to know your decision is still holding strong. 4 times a year, that's not much. If it's made a process, it's worth the gold. So whales, you have 2 customers. Most clients, you have one catbird, true decision maker. But here you got 2 because the ones on the floor can kill you in a day. The VP might have to wait for 2 years to kill you. So scavenging or farming, it's a simple question. All you got to do is ask yourself, are we, or, you know, as Mae West says, is you ate my baby. So here's what they did. Here's what those 50 companies that we studied with a magnifying glass. I made them into I words just to make it simple to remember, but they said, we just simply got clear about it, that we said first, first take care of the farm. Let's take a look at what we're doing here. And so they came up with the idea of, first of all, identify. I remember this guy asked his dentist, he said, do I have to floss every tooth? The dentist said, of course not. He said, I don't? He said, no. He said, just the ones you want to. I think the same thing here. You don't have to farm them all. Just the ones you really want to keep, the ones you just cannot bear to lose. So then you identify, who are those, I call them A-level clients. Here's an exercise, and if we had time, I would let you do it, and I'll ask you to do it as your own homework. Take a blank sheet of paper and make a column of 1 through 20, and then up at the top of the column, put a capital A in quotes. And all I want you to do is when you get back to your store, identify your 20 most important customers, your 20 A-level customers, if you will. I'm not asking you to change your mind. I'm just basically saying you want to find out. Start with them. Because if you can't get excited about nurturing a relationship with your 20 most significant revenue sources, you are never, ever going to pick up a postcard and mail it out to somebody random. You won't do it. So I'm saying start with your top 20. You can get pretty passionate about, if they're good enough for me to want to hang on to them, I'll guarantee you there's a fair number of folks out there that are after them. And about the only basis of our differentiation has to be the tight service and relationship that has been developed between them and us. And I think that's management's job. That is not sales' job. Yes, I want that sales rep to say, put Harry on plan C, sequence 1. I want the sales rep to do that with 2 or 3 keystrokes. I meet you, I decide you're a slow adopter, right into a plan. Thank you so much for the meeting, and on and on. Identify your top 20, and then individualize. You know about this one? Individualize. Identify, I'm going to give you an exercise, and by the way, if you think this is something worth exploring, my website, my email address is jim@nurtureinstitute.com. I'll be happy to send you all of these overheads and the backup support material that goes with them if you'd like, with my compliments. But essentially I'm saying on that top 20, this is a company in Chicago that told, Champaign, Illinois, that told me about this strategy. He said they picked their top 20. And then they went across the top column up there. I'm sure you can't see this, but I'll show you what they are. 6 columns. One says list your most important A clients, top 20. Anybody done that yet, your top 20 list, just to remind you, please? Yeah. So second is UNV, or ultimate net value, life cycle value. You know that. If you don't know what an A is worth, how in the world are you ever going to get very excited about getting another one or keeping the one you got? So what's the life cycle value? What's this thing worth? So, I've always said if you can't figure out what an A is worth, imagine what you're thinking the B is worth. And the top 20 is not a big job. You don't have to have a computer genius to do this for you. This fellow that showed me this is not my stuff. I wish it were. But he said it was as simple as ABC. Creating a hockey stick phenomenon, easy as ABC. He said it was, first of all, figuring out who your A's were and getting your arms around them and finding out what the world's about in their world. Because until you can sell an A, you have no right to talk to the rest of them. They're struggling. So he would ask them, he said he just took them through those 6 questions when he had his luncheon or conversation with them, and he would ask them, how is business? What's going on? Are you flying or are you dipping? Or are you just pooping along? And record it. And how about last year? I got records on that. Are the volume up or volume down, or is it staying the same? And do we know why? Not everybody, but the top 20. That's like noticing a slowdown in the blood pressure. A serious slowdown. And then I think one of perhaps the most critical of these questions that he asked, he said, how much are we spending on old number 1? And the sales manager said, for what? He said, they're supposed to spend on us. And he said, no, I understand. He said, but I'm talking about cultivating a relationship. And he said, like what? And he said, for what? And he said, listen up, you fool. That was the whole point of it. He said, how much did we spend purely for the relationship? You just send them You know, box of fruitcake for Christmas, write it down. 15 bucks or whatever. You know, Christmas card. If you bought the good one from Hallmark, probably 10 bucks. Put it down. Take a look at yourself and look at what the ultimate net value is, and look at what you're spending in the way of supporting and building that personal relationship with the one who basically holds your life in their hands, or your future. And then the sixth question I thought was brilliant, and he said, find out what year of a predictable life cycle that one's in right now. He said, if you want to have an exercise of violently sucking air between your teeth when you wake up one morning, take a look at your top 20 and realize that 18 of them are in year 9 of a predictable 5-year life cycle. It's kind of like, feet don't fail me now. We got places to go. So it's as simple as that, and it's as complex as that. It's first saying, do I have to feed this farm in order to get the maximum harvest out of it? Just ask yourself that question. And if I am feeding them the right nutrients at the right time, in the right quantities, in the right way, that's just a simple enough question, isn't it? Or are you, I call it the prayer method. Oh God, I hope the phone rings. And so to expect in this world that salespeople are going to be able to do what they did a generation ago, to go out and scavenge for leads, cold call, it isn't going to happen. Not with the ones you want. And so I think this I, the identify, is getting clear. That's where our goal is. What are we doing to preserve it, to protect it, to defend it, to help it? What are we doing? I think it's management conversation. And it also management's conversation to say we probably need to automate these processes so that sales reps have keystrokes rather than creative. Let's get our marketing people to writing messages and communiques on behalf of the sales rep and putting them on their desk or in their email for signature. Not salespeople. Salespeople don't like to write, they like to talk. And they're good at it. We make our lives off of it. Let's not cripple them by saying, you've got to write these letters, you've got to come up with the creative, you've got to come up with the metaphors. I wish Vern were here. I wanted to compliment him on the gazelle. Think of the metaphor. Fast, fleet, strong, endurance. What a great metaphor. Why in the world would not be attracted to something like this? You know, to say that I'm a gazelle. I am. I suspect most of us in the room think of us as that. But it's more than just speed and flexibility. You know, the gazelle's smart as well. All I did was just show you, just in a brief form, that you could do the same thing with existing clients, you could do the same thing with prospective clients, you could do the same thing with lost clients, you could determine where the best opportunity of effort is. You can also evaluate your most significant prospects. You could also identify your key players in the company that must be cultivated. You know why we work in small companies. One guy said, I like to have my name known by the boss. That's why. We don't want to get lost with a number. We want to be in people, real world. That's why they work with us. Let's not forget it. They expect to be cultivated and nurtured. Like, I remember one CEO was talking about gaining access to him, and he said, you better plan on pampering me like an orchid, not just plucking me like an apple. Try that. This is serious thinking of these people, and I'll be willing to bet many of you feel the same way when you are on the buyer role, when you have the responsibility and the authority. So identify, then individualize. See, this is